The Fiji mermaid is not the traditional half-fish, half-beautiful woman that many imagine when thinking of a mermaid. It originated in about 1810 when Japanese sailors started sewing the heads of monkeys onto the bodies of fish. The reasoning behind the creation of these creatures is unknown. Some speculate that they were made as a joke. Others see them as a traditional art form or symbols for religious rituals. Nevertheless, if it wasn't for one man coming into contact with a Fiji mermaid, or as P.T. Barnum spelled it, F-E-E-J-E-E, Fiji, they might have gotten lost in history. In 1822, an American sea captain from Boston, Samuel Barrett Eads, traveled to Japan and was shown a Fiji mermaid by Japanese sailors who assured Eads of its authenticity. The natural wonder of a real-life mummified mermaid fascinated Eads. Seeing an opportunity to profit off the same fascination of others, Eads decided to purchase the relic from the sailors for the price of $6,000. To pay for it, Eads appropriated the money from his ship's expense account and headed to London, where he planned on showcasing the mermaid to an awe-inspired public. The Fiji mermaid had brief success in London. Eads labeled it as the remarkable stuffed mermaid and showcased it at a local coffee house under a glass dome. Things went sideways though when two prominent naturalists declared the mermaid as fake. Knowing the impact this would have on his business, Eads had two unqualified naturalists legitimize the mermaid's authenticity. He then claimed that Sir Everett Home, a well-respected naturalist in the area, also approved it as authentic. This presumptuous act quickly led to Eads' downfall. Local papers denounced the mermaid, citing anyone who went to see it as incredibly gullible. The truth about the mermaid being a fake circulated throughout England, and its popularity dwindled. Even though it did tour for a few more years, business eventually died off altogether. Eads died possessing no other property besides his Fiji mermaid. When his son inherited it from him, he quickly sold it to Moses Kimball of the Boston Museum. In 1842, Kimball brought the mermaid to New York, where he presented it to P.T. Barnum, a well-known showman and the owner of the newly founded American Museum in New York City. Barnum requested the services of his own naturalist to verify the genuineness of the animal. The naturalist claimed that he never knew a monkey with such peculiar teeth, arms, hands, etc., nor had he knowledge of a fish with such peculiar fins. When Barnum asked the naturalist why he thought it was manufactured, he claimed, "Because I don't believe in mermaids." Barnum then said, "That is no reason at all, and therefore I believe in the mermaid." Instead of buying it from Kimball, Barnum leased it for $12.50 a week to exhibit it at his American Museum. It wasn't that easy for Barnum, though. His reputation had taken a bad hit years earlier when he was outed for lying about the age of a woman he was showcasing to audiences. In 1835, Barnum traveled with an African-American slave named Joyce Heth. Barnum claimed that she was the slave to Augustine Washington, the father of General George Washington. Audiences looked upon her as the 161-year-old woman who helped raise our founding father. In reality, she was a very unhealthy woman in her late 70s. Her real age was revealed when she passed away in 1836 and an autopsy was performed. Barnum knew if he were to immediately place the Fiji mermaid in his museum, audiences would be skeptical. So he concocted a plan that involved his friend Levi Lyman, posing as a man named Dr. Griffin of the Lyceum of Natural History in London. Barnum had friends of his from multiple locations in the U.S. mail in letters to the local papers in New York detailing the remarkable curiosity in the possession of Dr. Griffin, a mermaid that had supposedly been caught off the Fiji Islands before Dr. Griffin purchased it for a high price to display at his museum. On top of this, Lyman, as Dr. Griffin, traveled from New York to stay at a fancy hotel in Philadelphia for a few days. He charmed guests and staff and quickly gained a reputation as a polite and interesting man. The day before he was to check out, he paid his bill and thanked the landlord for housing him. He also invited him back to his room and told him, "I will permit you to see something that will surprise you." The landlord took Dr. Griffin up on his offer and was shocked when he got a glimpse at the mermaid. Curious and fascinated, the man begged Dr. Griffin to allow certain friends of his, including several members of the Philadelphia press, in to see the extraordinary specimen. This helped get the word to New York, and by the time Lyman returned, there was a growing number of people who wanted to see the mermaid with their own eyes. The final play between Barnum and Lyman involved a public feud between himself and the doctor. Barnum asked if Dr. Griffin would show the Fiji mermaid at his American Museum, but Griffin refused. Instead, he showcased it for the first time at the New York City Concert Hall, which flooded with eager spectators on opening night. The fake naturalist gave lectures on the mermaid, stating that all land animals have counterparts. He gave examples of horses and seahorses, lions and sea lions. His logic was that it's only natural to have a sea human as our counterpart. After about a week of this, Dr. Griffin finally allowed Barnum to exhibit the Fiji mermaid at the American Museum. Their job was done. Large crowds were dying to see what they fully believed to be a real-life mermaid. They were no longer thinking about Barnum's past exploitations. Barnum successfully exhibited the Fiji Mermaid for about 1 month before it was sent on a southern tour. After that, it spent about 20 years going back and forth between Barnum's museum and Kimball's. There are currently several very old Fiji mermaids on display at the Uranus Sideshow Museum. It is unclear whether one might be the original, one that was owned by Eads, Kimball, and Barnum, though it's surely possible. There were many more made over the years given people's fascination with them.
Hi guys, Kat here, curator at the Uranus Sideshow Museum. You should like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell so that you're made aware of all the freaks in Uranus.